if you have the world record at some point, you get whatever you want. And in 1985, Willie Banks set the world record in the triple jump, jumping 58.11 and a half, a record that stood for a decade. He held the American record for 15 years. He made it on 3 U.S. Olympic teams, and in 1988, he was captain of our Olympic team. And he's a California kid, grew up in Oceanside, a two-time California state champion, and he went on to UCLA. UCLA has had a good run these last couple days, and we have a little time at the end tonight. Maybe we can convince Mr. Banks to tell us about his freshman year and how he made the USC people feel even more humbled than they do after the basketball game. So we'll save that. So don't go away tonight, okay? All right. And finally, in 1985, he was named as the Track and Field News Athlete of the Year. So our session tonight is drills and training for success in the triple jump. Mr. Banks, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Tim. I really appreciate it. For those of you who came yesterday, I want to thank you for coming again tonight. You know, I love doing these clinics. They really mean a lot to me because I know that all of you really want to do the best you can for your athletes. I'm sorry that it's not in person so that we could have more of a back and forth. I'm not really the greatest lecturer, but I always love to help out where I can. I want to thank the LA84 Foundation and Mount SAC for hosting once again what I'd say is the best set of coaches clinics that I've ever been to. And I'd also like to once again thank you all for being a part of this. Now, let me see if I can get this working here. Oh, shoot.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we got a problem, Tim. I don't think I'm going to be able to do this.
What happened?
The computer just went berserk.
Well, you're still on, so we know it's up.
April Fools.
All right, comedian. Go ahead. Let me restart my pulse, and we'll get rid of it.
Okay, so today we're going to talk a little bit about training programs. Now, first the basics. For those of you who were here yesterday, I'm really big on the basics of doing things. You have to always build from a firm base. And once you've got that base together, then you can start building your program so that your athletes will get the best, especially in the triple jump, which is a very technical event. And it takes a long time to be able to understand it. But each time you learn something, each time your athlete learns or understands one part of the triple jump, they're going to get enormous benefit. It's not just going to be inches, it will be feet that they will be able to overcome. So let's just start with a little bit of a review on yesterday. Yesterday, we talked about the technique of the triple jump. We talked about the run, we talked about the hop, the step, the jump, and a little bit about the landing. The most important thing that I wanted you all to get out of this is that for your athletes in high school, they need to learn how to jump with a flat foot, so the entire foot hits the ground. Second most important thing is that when they're jumping, they need to, when they land on the ground, the second they hit the ground, either foot, they must have the knees within 2 to 3 inches of each other when the swing leg comes through for the next phase of the jump. The third thing that's basic is you need to incorporate at least 2, maybe even 3 days of bounding. Now, each day doesn't have to be long bounding, but there must be some kind of bouncing that goes on so they get used to coming off of that foot every single time and they don't hesitate to push off the ground. Finally, if you can get your athlete to run off the board rather than jumping off the board, you will flatten out the hop and be able to extend the step and the jump much better. Now, how would we build a training program for our athlete? Now, I know a lot of you are saying, well, usually I've got about 15 weeks. And this time I have a critically shortened season. How do we work on that? So what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to talk a little bit about the 15-week program, but I'm going to try and cut it a little bit here and there so that you can do it this year with a focus on this year rather, and then be able to use the longer period for next year when pray we get 15 weeks to coach our athletes. So in horizontal jumping, and especially in the triple jump, there has to be periods. A period, and I call this the period of different training functions. So like your macro cycles and your micro cycles, and I'll explain those a little bit later on. I believe that one of the most important things for a young athlete is that they understand where they need to go. It's very difficult for an athlete to be able to improve if they don't really know where they're headed, right? So if you explain to them right off the bat what the goals are, then they know how to prepare themselves each time for training for improvement. I believe, especially with the triple jump, there needs to be drill based. And when I say drill based, that means there needs to be certain drills that you do per training that will help the athlete understand what they're doing, because everything you do is based on basic skills and drills. I love the fact that humans are visual creatures, right? You can see something and you can understand it. And what is great about this period in the world is that everything's online. You know, you go on YouTube or Coach's Choice or whatever it is, and you can see what you have to do. And so we need to be visual and we need to be technical as coaches. We have to explain something that it pops. And the great thing about that is you as coaches, usually you're teachers or you love to talk, right? And so when you're coaching, you need to say something 20 different ways before you'll finally land on that way that is going to help your athlete, because every athlete hears things differently. I don't know how many times I've told someone to land flat foot, land with like you're going to squish a bug, land like you're going to break a board or something like that. And finally, I'm so tired of explaining it, and I say, boy, oh boy, sometimes I just want to put my foot down like a mom or your mom or dad, and they go, oh, I got it. I just want to beat them over the head. No, but that is what we have to do as coaches. So visual, but also technical. Learn the technology that we've been blessed with and use it. We need to be flexible. That nowadays everything you got to be flexible. Look at this pandemic; it just caused us to be more creative, right? Look at the foundation, the LA84 Foundation, Mount SAC Clinic. Is always face to face. Now we're on Zoom. Who knew? That's flexibility, and that's going to happen. So we always have to be flexible. And I said yesterday, and I'll say it tonight: training, competing has to be fun. If you want to improve, fun is how you do it. It's going to be hard, but that's also part of the fun of victory, right? And then always, always, always be rest conscious. And I'll show you that as we build this this training program. First thing we're going to start with is periodization. So in periodization, you want to break things up. And so usually over 15 weeks, I break it up kind of like in weeks or 2-week blocks of each and every training cycle that we go through. So the first cycle that I usually start with is speed endurance. Now, a lot of you do this. Some of you go, okay, we're going to run the cross country course, or some of you say we're going to do 5 million 200s or something like that, something crazy. But what I always like to do is start out with an athlete's speed and endurance, meaning we'll do long sprints with technique running. All right, not just running until you die, but maintaining technique in a long run. Nothing shorter than a 150 or a 200. And you want to You want to learn how to run these distances with technique and with power, okay? And with a little bit of flow. So it's not so much about the speed as it is with building endurance, and it's about running in a particular way with technique. And that I usually, if I have 15 weeks, I'd probably build in about 2 weeks of speed endurance. And then as we slowly would shift into speed strength. And speed strength is more running with resistance or running up hills, running up stairs. So you're building strength, the amount of force you can apply to the ground while running. And then as we go through that, we we get out of the speed strength. We'll continue with the speed strength, but we'll start building in more jump techniques. So for the first 4 weeks, maybe even 4.5 weeks, we don't even look at a triple jump runway. There's no sense in it because you're not prepared yet. So as you go through the speed strength, you will start now slowly moving to jump techniques. And when I say jump techniques, not on the jumping on the runway, but jumping through like on the grass, doing the bounding, doing stair bounding, doing jumps off of boxes, doing box drills, things like that. And then what I would usually do in the before we get to the competition section, I would get into these micro cycles. So you got your running technique, you got your jumping technique, you got your strength training, agility training, and mental training. So how do these micro cycles work? So you get into, let's say, speed training. And here in your speed endurance, you're going to continue to work the running technique. So that's just one of the micro cycles that goes along in your speed endurance and your speed strength, always working on your running technique. Once you start moving from your speed strength, you then start to add a little bit of jumping techniques to it. For instance, when we get to the jump technique aspect, you're going to work, yes, on the bounding and the things like that, but you're also going to start adding a little bit more of the actual triple jump technique. So in your bounding, you work on leg drive, you work on knees coming together, you do things that actually imitate triple jumping without being the triple jump. You do it on the grass, you do it in the sand, you go to the beach. We're fortunate enough to live in a state that has a long beach that you can take the athlete or ask the athlete to go down and train on the beach. Always, always, I'm building strength into my run. Some people just lift and just lift. I think that is okay, but I, as a coach, and I believe as an athlete, and as an athlete, I'm sorry, not believe, and as an athlete, had much more better performances when I wasn't just lifting weights. I was doing a lot of body weight. I was doing a lot of bounding. I was doing a lot of stair work. I was doing a lot of bounding uphill, bounding downhills. I was doing bounding in sand. So really working the bounding and the strength together. Yes, I would visit the weight room, and yes, I did lift. I did a lot of Olympic type lifts, and I spent a lot of time trying to get my body ready for the shock. I built agility training inside the jump technique macro cycle as well as the competition cycle. And the competition cycle is more being a cycle where you are preparing yourself for the championships, okay? It's not so much during the league meets as much as it is getting to the end of the league meets and starting to championships. That's why during the league meets and things, we're just working on techniques, we're working our speed, we're working on getting things consistent. When we get to the competition cycle or phase of our training, we're then working on all of the microcycles, the running, the jumping, the strength, agility training. And when I say agility training, that is things working side to side, working with different modems like the boxes, working with jump rope, doing balance drills. There's a million and one drills that you can do in order to achieve agility, and I'm going to show you some of those later on during my presentation. Mental training, my favorite. I truly believe that the mind is stronger than the body, and if you've ever seen me jump, you probably say, yeah, you're probably right, Willie, because I was never one of those guys who could actually lift up their shirt and you would see, like a washboard. Mine, you would see probably the doughboy. I never had one of those kind of stomachs. I was never big in the chest. I had no arms. I was the kind of guy that when you go to the beach with your girlfriend, they'd kick sand in my face and take my girl away. So, hey, I had to rely on what I had, and that was my mental strength. And it was all about enjoying what I was doing, going out, learning how to do the technical part, and then just letting go. So we'll talk more about that later. Moving on. Everything, I believe, should be goal-oriented. And when I say goal-oriented, athletes need to know what they have to do in order to be better, right? Athletes have to know what they have to do in order to be better. In order to do that, we have to give them certain challenges and let them see why they're not as good as they could be. I'm going to move to excuse me, hang. Oh, I went right past it. Here we go. So, using a triple jumper. And if we want our triple jumper to improve, and this is in meters here, you can see along the left-hand side here, you'll see different lifts, different agility activities, and different sprints. And what I've done is I've actually utilized a Japanese sourced a list of different technical drills or skills that you can use that will give you an idea of how far your athlete can do and go in the triple jump. So for instance, if your athlete can snatch 46.7 kilos, 69.7 kilograms in the clean, bench 55.5 kilos, full squat 96.3 kilos, take a female shot and throw it 8.89 kilos, broad jump or standing long jump 2.64 kilos, meters, the shot put meters, broad jump meters, 5-step jump. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into the pit. If they can go 13.89 meters, if they can bound with, if they can run and bound over 30 meters, time plus the amount of steps equals 13.83. If they can run 30 meters from a crouching start, 4.34 seconds. If they can do a 60 meter crouching start at 7.71 seconds, if they can run 150 meters from a crouching start at 18.98, 30 meters from a running start at 3.34, then that athlete should be able to jump 13 meters or better. Now, you explain that to an athlete, and what are they going to do? They're going to try and hit each one of these goals. And if they can, there's a 90% chance that athlete will be able to jump 13 meters. And I say that because we did testing in Japan, and it turns out that we were about right around 90% correct in how the jumpers finally did on their jumps. And I was really impressed with how this came out. And again, even if they don't hit this means that they need some technical adjustment in their jump. But if they are able to do these skills, then I feel very confident that you will get the kind of jumps you want. Now you can extrapolate them down for women, or if your athlete is jumping 17 meters and they're in high school, I'd love to meet them because we can do some great stuff with them, and we can go over 1750 to 18 meters if you'd like. All right, let's go to the next one. So as I was saying earlier, drills, drills, drills. And here's just a few drills that I like to talk about. So warm-up drills, I always had my athletes doing different types of warm-ups drills. And the reason why I did that is because, a lot of people just have you run maybe 2 laps and stretch, and then you right into whatever you're going to do. I thought that was good early on, but then I found out that what we're doing when you do that, we never really warm up. The body is such a unique machine that it adapts too quickly. So you run the 2 laps and then you watch your athletes sit down, they start stretching, and then they wind up getting cold because their body, all of a sudden it adapts, and it's not creating any blood flow that's going to help their muscles do the training that needs to be done. I always believe in active warm-ups. So you don't just sit there and stretch. If you're going to do stretching, that should come after your activity so that your muscles are flexible enough, they're filled with enough blood so that there's some motion that can be done and you don't injure your athletes. Warm-ups can be up and back warm-ups. Instead of running 2 laps, you have them, go down and skip back. And you've seen all the different drills that you can do back and forth and back and forth. And for the triple jumpers, I would focus on the warm-up on drills that mimic somewhat of the triple jump. Doing skips, doing high skips, doing speed skips, doing a little bounding, do some leg flips, all different types of drills that are going to actually mimic the kind of things that you have to do in the triple jump. So every part of the body is prepared. Of course, we got running drills. Everybody has their own running drills that they want to do. I think it's very important that when you do running drills, you build in slow motion running drills as well. What I found is that athletes get through these drills and they really never learn where their ankle placement should be, where their foot placement should be. They just run. Now, what you need to do is slow it down and have each athlete do the run really slow. In fact, in a walking pace, do the run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2. Make sure that they understand each phase of running. Bounding, we talked about. Jumping drills. There's a ton of jumping drills, including drills using a jump rope, drills using boxes, drills using stairs, drills using other people's bodies, like running drills with people on your back, pushing drills. There's drills for using a high jump pit, using a pole vault pit. There's many different drills that you can do for jumpers. Weightlifting, we've talked about, skipping drills, agility drills. Now, agility has to do with coordination, so some coordination drills you should throw in. Make it fun, make it challenging, but be incremental about it. You start out easy, and then you go to intermediate, and then you go to more complex drills. So you can read on here the rest of these. They're pretty easy to understand. And later on, I'm going to show you a few videos of some of these drills. In fact, I think I'll start with box drills because I've got to explain this a little bit. Um, let's see if I can make this work.
The box drill or depth jumping is a
Just remember, this was so many years ago when I had hair, and I don't want any jokes.
exercise. This drill strengthens legs as well as sharpens your timing. The box should be anywhere from 1 foot to 2 feet high by 2 feet wide by 2 feet long.
I want to say, oops, messed up. I want to say that I've changed. That's much too big for a high schooler. What you want to do, it could be as low as even 2 inches, a 2-inch box. Basically, it's something that they can shoot for in their bounding. It makes them push off the ground or hit the ground and bounce off the ground rather than reaching for the next spot. So anyway, we'll go on and you'll see what this is more for an advanced jumper, but you'll get the idea of how this works. Oh, darn. These things.
1 foot to 2 feet high by 2 feet wide by 2 feet long. The box should be designed in such a way that it can be stacked securely on top of another. Boxes should be placed about 15 feet apart, as measured from the middle of each box. Do the bounding exercises on the boxes. First, single leg bounding. Then alternate legs. Now bound as if you are triple jumping. Change the height of the boxes by stacking them. I would not stack the boxes over 3 feet high because injuries might result. Maintain horizontal velocity. When you are proficient, try to bound over the boxes.
Oh, if only I was young, huh? Okay, now I'm going to show you another drill that's kind of fun. But before I show you this drill, I want to just talk one more time about the box drills. Those box drills, you basically want to do your bounding, just like I said. So that is essential. But again, those boxes were a little bit too tall for the athletes, and I find I get nervous because some athletes could get hurt because they're not proficient enough in the boxes to be able to do it. So make a shorter box. If you can make a box out of something that's a little less dangerous, that would be the best. But the box drills are really great, especially you start maybe 10 feet apart, then move it 1 foot apart as you go along until the athlete is challenged and has to push to the next box rather than reaching. Now, the 2-minute drill is something I came up with, and this drill is it's a fun drill, but it is something that really helps the athlete if a coach is there and a coach is giving adequate and consistent feedback to the athlete when they're jumping. And here's why. You'll see.
Take a 3-stride approach and triple jump into the pit. The object is to do as many proper triple jumps as you can into the pit within a 2-minute limit. Remember to concentrate on body position. When you become tired, will yourself to excellence. Maintain proper technique. Take note of how many you perform well. Have a rating system.
So that rating system should help your athlete, because if they get, let's say, 10s on each jump, then they know they're getting better. The key to this exercise is consistent, perfect technique. And if we can do that, then when the athlete gets ready to jump on, let's say, their 5th or 6th jump, they will not be tired. They'll be able to jump much better on some of their later jumps. So I love this exercise for young people. It works really good. It worked really good for me. It's worked good for my athletes. And if you try it and you're consistent with your critique, the athlete will start to really love this drill. Will Clay loves this one for some reason. He really enjoys doing this one.
Take a 3-strike.
Okay, we talked about visual and technical drills. I mean, visual and being visual and technical. So here's some of the things that we do and that you should incorporate into your training. Now, when I first got to UCLA, my coach was Tom Tellez, and we would spend an hour watching 8mm movies. And for those of you who are too young to understand what 8mm movies are, no, I'm not even going to explain. Look it up on the internet. So we watch these videos, and again, humans are visual. And so when I saw that, I was able to mimic what I saw on the video in such a way that I started making these great improvements. And it wasn't until I sat with Tom, who could explain it to me, that I started to improve. So I suggest that you as a coach do a lot of these kinds of visual sessions with your athletes. Now, I know you don't have time, but look, this is the perfect way of doing it on a Zoom conference with your athletes. And I always ask coaches to show not just Jonathan Edwards, Christian Taylor, Will Clay, the Cubans. Don't just show them that. That's just crazy town. They're not there yet. You got to show them the bad, the okay, and the great. And that way you really get them to picture what they have to do in order to be great. Not some craziness, because some athletes who are really good, elite athletes, make mistakes. I can give you 10 mistakes that I made when I set the world record that if I would have corrected, I would have done much better. So anyway, videos, internet sessions are critical. Record practices and go over them with your athletes. I'm sure some of you do this, but this is critical stuff. Like I said in the beginning, watch the best and then watch the worst and let them compare. It helps. Now, I talked about flexibility, and flexibility is critical. So let me just, I don't know why I do these things. You got to be flexible in training. You have to be flexible in your exercises, your training program, your meet schedule, your event activities, psychology. All of these things about flexibility are true. And I want to focus on two of these, really. Flexibility in your training schedule. Look what happened with this pandemic. So we don't have the schedule that we had before. So when I talked early on about the different cycles and I broke them down into 2 weeks, you should be breaking it down more into 1 week or a week and a half to be able to compact it into this short season, and maybe cutting a couple of these cycles out. You don't necessarily need the speed endurance cycle. You need more the speed, the jumping cycle, of course, and you need more the training of speed, strength, so that they can jump with the type of endurance that they need for the final competition phase. The other one I want you to think about is the flexibility in psychology. Now, a lot of coaches aren't really into the psychology of jumping, but there is a critical part of jumping that a lot of people don't understand when they haven't jumped. And that is, the triple jump is a scary event. It's like the pole vault, because you're going to jump far on and land on your leg. Imagine you jumping 20 feet and landing on one leg and keep going for another 18 to 19 feet. That's some scary stuff. That's like jumping off of a building. So you have to mentally prepare your athlete to jump far and not to be afraid. And the way to do that is to be learn how to tell them the story of how to jump. Watch the videos. Focus on certain things that they can do right, like the flat foot. Focus on that, because that'll help them understand that they can't get injured if they land correctly. If they move through the phases correctly, there won't be an injury. It all goes through the top of their head. It's all physics. And if you can teach them that, they'll do a much better job, because they will not be afraid. And I teach fear training. I am a big supporter of fear training. Take them to the pool, make them jump off the diving board and do the triple jump phases as they go down. And that's from the high dive, right? Take them to the beach, make them get into waves as they come crashing down, and try and do the triple jump through the waves. Make them, jump from 6 feet from a high jump pit, jump off a box into the high jump pit and land on their butt. 6 feet looks like 20 feet when you're trying to land on your butt on a high jump pit. So slowly move it out to get scary. But those are the kinds of things you need to do to get athletes to overcome the fear of jumping. So those are just a couple of things. This flexibility event activity, some people don't understand. What I'm saying there is cross training. So you have to be flexible enough in your training, even now with this compressed schedule, to be able to give a little bit of time for your athlete to do something else. Hurdling is one of the best exercises for a triple jumper. It's just amazing. And not just running the hurdles, but jumping over the hurdles. When I ran the hurdles in high school, I learned how to push off. It's the same exercise. The same skill of jumping over or running over a hurdle is the same skill of going off of the board in the triple jump. Who knew? But it's the same. The same skill of using that last phase of the pole vault. When you plant, you have to push with the foot so that you can get underneath the pole. Same movement in the triple jump. It's not a jump, it's a push off. So cross train, do the hurdles, do the pole vault, learn how to push off the board rather than jump off the board. Let's see. And it wouldn't be a Willie Banks training session if we didn't talk about fun. All right, it's all about fun. An athlete who enjoys what they're doing is going to do 10 times better than one who's struggling. So make it fun. If they aren't reaching their goals, tell them to go have fun. Tell them to take some time off and go have fun. Enjoy. Learn how to make it a game for them. Learn how to create games that are going to make them want to do more. I created several games for my athletes. Some I learned by teaching, by trying to get little kids to settle down, right? You learn these little psychological games that you can teach your athletes to help them relax, help them enjoy what they're doing. So basically, you can challenge your athlete and they're going to love it if you use the right skill. Try Zumba as a warm-up. I do it all the time. Kids love it. Final thing here that I want to tell you before we get into some of the drills that I was talking about earlier. Rest is critical. I think your athletes are going to have fantastic years this time, because they had to give up a part of their season last year. They had to give up most of their training this year, and so all they have is this. And they are just going to love it. And because of that, they're going to be excited. They're going to go and they're going to have terrific jumps, not just because you're a great coach, but because they're going to want to train and want to jump. It's no longer going out and training. It's yes, we get out of the house and we get to train, right? So I believe we're gonna have some great performances. Rest is training. Sometimes it's 2 days of work, 1 day of rest. It doesn't matter. Just give your athletes rest. And when I say rest, I mean don't make them do the triple jump all the time. In fact, I never did a triple jump in practice in my life. It was all about maybe the hop skip or it was the skip jump or it was just the run hop. Mix it up. And I only put it together when I was in a competition. So this is just an idea of what I did with some of my athletes, and I had some pretty good success with it. And I just wanted to give you an idea of some ideas that you can use in your training program. And again, rest is several things. There's mental rest, there's physical rest, there's cross-training rest where you're not doing what your specialty is. There's sleep rest. There's all kinds of rest. Well, just use whatever you can to improve your athlete. So let me skip this part. I want to show you just a couple of drills that I created just to show you what you could even do. So like this one, the square hop drill. Jump in, jump out, 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 jump back. And do that 3 times, and you're building agility, strength, endurance, and time.
The leg.
Here's another one. This is a pull-through drill where an athlete has to pull with their hip flexor. Hip flexor is very important. You don't want your athlete using their ab muscles. You want them pulling with their hip flexor and using that for strength. For some of you, probably use a push drill. And a push drill is you holding your athlete back but letting your athlete run. And here, you really want your athlete to understand it's a push down to the ground. It's not a pull up with your leg. And it's the same thing with the pull drills. I like this drill here because it really forces your athlete to pull you. You just lean back, let them pull you, and it actually forces your athlete to put more energy into the ground, which is the object of what you want to do, right? Okay, so just a few drills. So Tim, I think with no further ado, I think we can move on to some questions.
All right, yeah, go ahead and unshare your screen if you would for a second, Willie.
Oh, come on.
We want to see your handsome face. There we go. All right, we do have some good questions here. All right, should we do tech work with our jumpers before they go to other events like sprints or after sprint practice is done?
If you have an athlete that is a sprinter and they want to come, I would have them do the sprint first before they come to the triple jump, because the triple jump is something that is more ballistic, and the more they have in training for a turnover, the better it's going to be for them. So start with the run and come to the triple jump.
All right,
It's going to be the same way with the. I'm sorry, it's going to be the same thing with competition, because you're going to see your athletes are going to do all these events in the triple jumps towards the end of the meet. So they've already done the 100 and the 200, maybe even the 400, and then finally they get to the triple jump, and then you do the triple jump. So they're going to be tired anyway. So.
Yeah. You mentioned about doing different things for warm-ups. Could you give us a full warm-up for a high school kid before a practice or meet? I assume they mean a triple jumper. So.
Right. Okay. So let me see. I've got tons of different warm-ups that I do, but I'm going to give you a basic warm-up type drill. So I would have my athletes line up on the track, just cross however they want in a bunch, and then they would do each about each 50 meters they would do a different drill. So you start out skipping for 50 meters, and then at the first 50 meter you'll do bounding. Then the next 50 meters you skip. Then the next 50 meters you'll do skip turns. The next 50 meters you do a bunny hops. The next 50 meters, you'll do backwards runs. The next 50 meters, you'll do forward or side skips. Next 50 meters, the opposite side skips. The next 50 meters. So I would do 2 laps, an exercise per 50 meters. And the last 100 meters would be a build-up sprint. Start out at 25, 50, 75, 100. So that's just one. That's one. Another one you could do would be we had like 3 different types of warm-ups that we would use for at the Olympic Training Center, and basically it's up and back type skills. So you do up and back skips, up and back jumps, up and down bounding, up and back running. You do side drills. Then we'd get on the grass, and then we would do leg ups, push ups, side ups, V-sits, crab walks, and then we would do, what are they called? Mountain climbers, froggers, and fire hydrants. And we do all these in succession, so there's no rest. So they build endurance, agility, flexibility, and power.
Okay. Here's another question with the warm-up there. Does an athlete ever take a full triple jump during a warm-up for a meet?
Yeah. Yes, but not a full one. I would do I would always have my athletes do a 8-step approach and do the triple jump. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing a full approach triple jump if they feel it, because if they're feeling it, you can't stop it, right? So they do their run and then they do a triple jump. That's just natural, and you really know if they do it that they're on. And I would just say, okay, leave it alone, because that's magic.
It is. You said a crouching start. Is that the same thing as a 3-point start?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just like getting in the blocks. It's that kind of thing.
All right, here's a good one. I work with middle school age kids. Are they too young to start learning how to bound?
No, because bounding is building strength in their legs. Hopping, even elementary school, I would do hopscotch, an extended hopscotch with the kids, right? And so they would learn how to hop on the hopscotch. That's what you do. I mean, hopscotch is where I learned how to bound.
God, I forgot all about that. You said that last night. That's true, isn't it? My gosh. Are there specific triple jump shoes?
That's a tough one, because there's triple jump spikes. Triple jump shoes should be something that makes sure that your heel is protected. And that's the only thing that I would worry about, making sure your heel is protected and the ball of your foot is protected. So there needs to be a slight cushion there. And I don't have a shoe in mind, but just if you make sure that it's cushioned properly, you should have no problem.
Okay. During the season, how many days do you do drills?
Every day. Let's see. 4 days, and then we do drills. But remember, they're not triple jump drills. Some are sprint drills, some are jump drills, some are agility drills, some are distance drills. Drills to me are about just learning skills.
This popped up right after the last question. Heel cups, do you recommend them?
Yeah, for some kids, depending on the type of jumping surface that they're using, a heel cup is not bad. I think, though, that there may be a problem as they get older. I think they're going to start. They're going to stop athletes from using them. I'm not sure yet, but there's some fear because of the different types of shoes that have come out lately that have caused some grief to the distance runners, that they're looking at heel cups. So stay tuned.
Okay, very good. That's the questions we had. So I'm going to throw my last one in there as a a struggling USC person this week, a fan of USC track. You were a freshman at UCLA in that dual meet when you came up there. Do you remember that meet?
Oh boy, do I remember that meet.
Really, do
Of
you?
course. I've got it right here in front of me. Let me see if I can get it.
It's been a tough. Oh my gosh, are you serious? You have to tell that story. So this will be our story to end the night with. Okay. All right. Shoot.
Yeah. So, the good thing about being in Los Angeles is there's two great schools. One is UCLA and the other is UCLA. And when I was there, when I arrived at UCLA, the two schools, USC and UCLA, were track powerhouses. There wasn't this restriction on how many scholarships you got. There was, it was just go for it. And we had half the Olympic. It seemed like half the track and field Olympic team was made up of UCLA and USC. And the track meet was always a pretty big thing. And particularly in this year, in 1975, it was the year before the Olympic Games. And it was a few years after the 72 Olympic Games when I got there. And we had some of the greatest athletes of all times. And I was always so impressed with UCLA and the SC athletes that every time I went on the track, I just couldn't believe I was there with these great athletes. So let me just tell you, I was 6'3", 155 pounds wet. And I was coming out as the state champion in California. I had a jump of 51 feet, 3 inches, maybe something like that. Maybe that was at the Golden West. I'm not sure, but I had a pretty good jump. So then we were jumping, and I was, again, I was a freshman, so I was probably about the third jumper on the squad, and both teams were undefeated coming into the last meet. And the last meet is always the dual meet is always the UCLA USC dual meet, and there was a fictional thing called the dual meet champion of the country, right? And so it was a big meet. And at this meet, you couldn't see from there, but the stadium held probably 15,000 people. But then ring around the track was probably 5,000, 2,000 to 3,000 to 5,000 people watching from outside of the stadium. And I was amazed. The night before, I went out with my girlfriend, and as we were going back to the dorms, I told her, I'm going to win this meet. And she looked at me like, you must be crazy, you dumb jackass. So I went and I laid in my bed, and I was just sitting there thinking, and I watched myself doing this triple jump, and I was like, wow. And I felt like I was doing it. I felt like I could smell the grass and I could feel the sun. And I went through each jump, and I was like, man, that felt great. Well, I woke up from that dream, and I was like, whoa, that was awesome. And I took a shower because I had sweat through the whole thing. I mean, I was drenched from the competition in my head. And I lived in Sproul Hall, which was right up above the track. And I opened the curtains and I said, I'm coming down, get ready. I put my stuff on. I ran down there, and the crowds were filling up. And UCLA does this thing where they run around the track, and then they form this circle, and then we do a chant and a prayer, and then we disperse into what we're going to do. My very first event was going to be the long jump. And I'm not a long jumper, but Coach Tellez said, well, do this for us. Maybe you'll get a point or two. And I go, okay, great. I'm in the long jump against the gold medalist, Randy Williams, NC2A champion, the NC2A runner-up, the best, the second best jumper of all times from UCLA, Herndon. And I'm like, why am I here? I can't even get a point. But I felt very confident because I saw myself win the night before when I was sleeping. So on my first jump, I jumped 25.2, I think, and I was leading. The next jump, 25.8, 26.2. And my best coming out of high school was 24, I think it was 24.2 or 24.8 or something like that. That was my best. So I jumped 2 feet further than I'd ever jumped before. And I won. I was like, holy crap. So then the meet went on, and first it was USC winning, then UCLA winning, and after every event, it was so close, so close. So they start the triple jump, and I'm there with the NC2A champion, NC2A runner-up, the best in the UCLA record holder, And I'm like, okay, why am I here? We'll see what happens. So we're jumping, and again, it was going back and forth, UCLA, USC. And it comes to the last jump. And I was in 4th place. Now, I don't know about you, but I had never seen the university band at a track meet. The UCLA's band was at this track meet. And there was no wonder. It was covered by Channel 5 in LA. It was huge. And I was thinking, this is a crazy, crazy event, a track meet that has live television. And if you looked in the stands, you would see famous people like Wilt Chamberlain, just, tons of famous people that I knew. And I was awestruck by this. So I'm in 4th place. It comes down to the last jump. And standing very close to the pit, and I'm thinking, oh my God. And the announcer says, next up is Willie Banks. And he's in 4th place. If he can go into 1st place, he can win the event for UCLA. And my eyes are big as saucers. I'm like, holy crap, what am I going to do? I run over to Tom Tellez, the greatest coach of all times in the triple jump, long jump. And I look at him, I go, Coach, what am I supposed to do? And he looked at me and he said, son, do what you do in practice. And he walked away. I was like, what the heck kind of coach are you? You're supposed to give me a pep, something. But that was probably the smartest thing he could have done, because I'd have been thinking about something other than just relaxing and doing what I'm supposed to do, right? So I went to the top of the runway. And all of a sudden, the head coach, who I talk to maybe every once in a while, he comes up to me and he goes, son, you can either win this for me or you can lose it for me. And he walks away. I'm like, that's a pep talk and a half. I was like, okay. So I lined up, and all of a sudden, they start this A clap. And I'm like, the A clap. For football, for basketball, I can understand, but for a triple jumper, what are they doing? And the band goes, and I'm like, oh, what do I do? So I stand there and I say a little prayer, and they do the A clap, and it starts to settle down. People are waiting, and I hear this voice, and this voice goes, you'll never make it. And I looked over, and it was my hero, O.J. Simpson.
Oh, jeez.
I was like, no longer my hero. So I just said a little prayer, and I just took off. And I hop, I skip, I jump, and I landed in virgin territory. And I was like, I don't know how far it is, but that was a good jump. And I run back over to the tape, and I'm watching them pull it out. 53, 54, 55, 1 inch. The best I'd ever done by 2 feet. And I won the track meet. You could see in that picture, they lift me up, they carry me around, and I'll never forget it. The funny thing was, I was running for office for the UCLA student body. And so while they were doing an interview, I actually did a campaign. Channel 5, and the next day in the LA Times, it said, Willie Banks like Victory in the Bank, but also mayor of Westwood. And it was just insane. So needless to say, I won the campaign.
No shame. You have no shame. That's right.
No, not when it comes to politics.
That's great. That's what we need more of. I think next year one of our sessions will be just stories with Willie. We'll just do that. Anyway, Willie, thanks so much. I really do appreciate it, what you've done. Again, I can't stress enough before you folks all leave us for the night. Willie is as important in the sport as anybody. He's kind of Roger Goodell of track and field right now. And he'll spend time talking to you tonight, and you see him at a meet, you go up and sit down with him, and he'll talk to you about how do I get my girl to go 26 feet in the triple jump? And that's the kind of guy he is. He's been that way for, we don't want to say what year was that again, that freshman year at UCLA?
75, buddy.
75. So it's been a couple of years. So that's when we all had hair. So anyway, Willie, thanks so much. We really do appreciate last night and tonight and all you've done for us over the years. And folks, thank you for joining us. Just a quick reminder, we're back next Tuesday. We come back with Jeff Messer again, diversifying the distance foundation, additional evidence, and specific applications. If you've been following Jeff, you know that stuff will be evidence-based. And then Cameron Gary will be back for flight mechanics for the long jump, so more jumping and more distance running. So we really do appreciate it. Want to thank you all for joining us. Willie, once again, thank you and good night. And everybody else, thank you and good night. And we'll see you next Tuesday night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Willie, great job.
Thank you.